the job.
It's really very simple. It's the denuclearization of Iran. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that, in all fairness.
Breaking news. U.S.-Iran ceasefire faces fresh challenge as diplomatic uncertainty grows. The fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran is once again under intense pressure, as new political statements and military developments raise questions about whether the recent agreement can hold. After several days of heightened tensions and military exchanges in the Persian Gulf, attention is now shifting from the battlefield to diplomacy. While commercial shipping has started moving more normally through the Strait of Hormuz, uncertainty remains high as both Washington and Tehran send mixed signals about possible negotiations. According to marine tracking data, shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has begun to recover after slowing sharply over the weekend. The slowdown followed a series of military incidents involving the United States and Iran that increased concerns about the safety of one of the world's most important maritime trade routes. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow passage connecting the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman. Nearly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil exports travel through this route every day. Because of its strategic importance, any disruption in the area immediately affects global energy markets, shipping companies, and governments around the world. Adding to the uncertainty, President Donald Trump announced that Iran had requested a new round of talks with U.S. officials and suggested a meeting could take place in Doha. However, Iranian officials quickly denied that any formal meeting had been scheduled, creating confusion about the current state of diplomatic efforts. Political analysts say these conflicting statements highlight the fragile nature of communication between the two countries. While both governments continue to express interest in the diplomacy, significant disagreements remain over security, sanctions, and Iran's nuclear program. Speaking earlier, President Trump warned that although the United States prefers a diplomatic solution, there may come a point where stronger military action becomes necessary if negotiations fail or if American interests are threatened again. The administration has repeatedly stated that its primary objective remains preventing Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. U.S. officials argue that a diplomatic agreement is still the preferred outcome, but insist that all options remain available if talks collapse. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff have continued briefing lawmakers on the administration's interim agreement with Iran. Members of Congress have received updates on the current diplomatic framework as well as ongoing security conditions across the Middle East. Not everyone in Washington supports the administration's approach. Several Democratic lawmakers have expressed concern that repeated military exchanges could gradually push both countries toward a larger regional conflict. Critics argue that while military deterrence may provide short-term security, long-term stability will depend on sustained diplomatic engagement. Iran has also maintained that future technical negotiations with the United States will only take place if what it describes as the necessary political conditions are met. Officials in Tehran have indicated that consultations continue internally, but no detailed timetable for direct negotiations has been confirmed. Experts believe the next several days will be extremely important. If both governments are able to resume meaningful dialogue, the recent ceasefire could survive despite the latest tensions. However, another military incident, particularly one involving commercial shipping or regional military bases, could quickly reverse recent progress. Global markets are watching developments closely. Oil traders remain sensitive to any disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, while shipping companies continue reviewing security procedures for vessels traveling through the Gulf. Even temporary instability in the region has the potential to influence fuel prices and international trade. For now, military forces across the Middle East remain on alert, diplomatic contacts continue behind closed doors, and world leaders are urging restraint from both sides. Whether this fragile pause develops into lasting diplomacy or another cycle of confrontation will depend on the decisions made in Washington and Tehran over the coming days. As this story continues to evolve, we will keep bringing you verified updates, expert analysis, and the latest developments from around the world. Thank you for watching. If you found this report helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications for more international news and global affairs coverage.